What's up, everybody? It is Odin here on this wonderful Sunday evening. It's Sunday again. Sunday is upon us, which means I get to make another State of the Union or whatever I'm calling it. Rundown of the week's events or whatever. But I have exciting, really cool things to talk about, actually. It's an exciting week, especially as far as Broken Compass Comics is concerned. So those of you who backed, I almost said Unconditional Shove. Those of you who backed Magnificent Bastards, which in all reality is the flagship book for Broken Compass Comics. That book is wrapped up. It was 100% wrapped up as far as everything for the book. It's at the printer now. And if you backed a tier for Magnificent Bastards that has a digital version, you should have that available. Now, you can still wait to get your physical copy. And I would never blame anyone for that. Obviously, your prerogative. But it is... those digital copies went out. And the book is at the printer and soon to be printed. So, very exciting times. Now, that said, I was able to read this story way early in the week. Everything was wrapped up, and we had to do some final edits and just take a very quick look. James is like, here it is. Now, he's been telling me this story. I know this story. As long as I've known James, especially once we really partnered up with Broken Compass Comics, he's been telling me the story. But it is 100% different, talking on the phone, hearing the story from James, to reading page by page this complete work of art that he has created with his art team. So... I just want to say I read it way early in the week, and I've read it a couple times since then, and every time I am blown away. I think it's an amazing book, and I'm obviously biased, but I tried to be as unbiased as possible, and I also tried to be as critical as possible and give them that kind of feedback, but I just enjoyed it so much. It was a book... For me, and maybe it's just my personality, and we will see. Everyone's going to have their own opinions, but I was thoroughly not only entertained, I was impressed. And I know James. I know him very well. We've become very close, very good friends. I was very impressed with his ability to tell a story, his ability to pace a story, his ability to entertain. Because that's really the biggest key. It's like you can impress someone with writing. You can impress someone with artwork. You can impress someone in many different ways. But what we're selling is entertainment. And I had a big, just like I am right now, I was smiling ear to ear, enjoying the ride, enjoying reading this book. So that's my opinion. Obviously, like I said, I can't totally take away all my bias. I tried. But that said... Congratulations, James, and his entire team that put this book together. You should feel very proud. I think what you made was an extremely entertaining, solid, fun book that had me excited to want to get the next installment, which is, another thing you always want to leave while being thoroughly entertained the entire time. So, congratulations, James. You should feel very proud. And I know this is like a vindicating book, because this is the first time he's worked on a comic book that he's actually able to add his name. And not only that, but he created it. He created the whole thing. So I'm very proud of him. And I think he should feel very proud, as well as his art team. Samir Sameo, who does awesome pencils and inks, and really caught the feel, told the story extremely well. As a fellow artist, I think he's amazing. I think he's one of the more talented people out there. His cartooning abilities are phenomenal. And then storytelling was great. And then Rob Cronenberg's colors were also phenomenal. The entire thing. And then James lettered it. So he created it, wrote it, lettered it. That whole team, all of you guys, and James knows this. I talk to him all the time, but you should be proud of what you put out. And hopefully everyone out there in the sphere, in the world, anybody who backed, really enjoys it as well. I think you will. If you haven't checked it out yet, I think you'll be thoroughly entertained. I was. And the only thing I could think would happen that would make people be detractors is just that they're basic bitches who don't understand. They're like, it's too much going on. I don't understand. That's the only thing I could see happening. But I didn't have a hard time following it. Even though, that said, there's like so much left unanswered because you're building to something and it's just the first issue. But I think it established the world you're going to live in, while also said there's a whole realm of possibilities where we're going and you don't know what's coming yet. Just wait. So it did so much. There was a lot of humor, a lot of action. All of it was well paced. All of it was well timed. The humor was dropped at the right moments. Just great stuff. And I never doubted James. I know him very well. But it was really cool to see, the fruit of that labor, I know he's worked very hard on this. He's planned this out, and he's worked with the team, and, there were some delays and, all those things you have to deal with, but phenomenal job. So anyway, that's Magnificent Bastards, which, again, it's like the flagship book for Broken Compass Comics, and the first thing we're putting out. And it's exciting times because that is the start of a tremendous journey, not only for James and that team, but also for Broken Compass Comics in general. Because Unconditional Shove, we're nipping at the heels. We're right on the right on the precipice ourselves. So all of the Unconditional Shove pages are done. I want to share the last page. I won't. I was hanging out with J-Bot the other night on his stream, and I was like, hey, you want to see it? After his show was done, I was like, not talking to the public. He's like, no. Stop trying to share everything. I'm like, I just want someone to see it because I really liked it. That said, everyone's going to see it who backed it here very soon. So, all the pages for Shove are done. I am just working, as you can see, on... This is Kull of Atlantis, and this is page 5 out of 6. And this one's pretty much done. A few little things I got to do here and there. Start on page 6, and then that's it for me. 88 pages altogether. And that was quite a journey, let me tell you. I started the first ink to paper, and again, timing and everything, it's not like it would take me this long to do it again, but I hadn't really dove in head first just yet. So it was like, but it was almost exactly 2 years ago that I first started this journey. And I would say it was almost exactly a year ago that I really started announcing myself to the public, I guess. As far as, hey, this is what I'm doing. I'm making this book. Here's some pages. This is what I'm drawing. Started streaming. So I went on 80s Made Consumers stream where I met James and everything. And that was the start. That was definitely a start. And forever, just that was a great opportunity, a great time. And then, I said, here I am. I'm making this damn book. Hopefully some people like it, and we've got some good response, and I'm hoping that, and I've talked to James about this before, that once books are in people's hands, that they become believers, because I think what we're doing here is really cool stuff. Like, my book's quite different from Bastards. We also have some things upcoming in the future, but I think everything we're going to do is going to have a feel of fun, entertainment. It's definitely going to be dark. It's definitely going to have some humor. It's going to just... That's who we are. That's Broken Compass Comics. So yeah, Shove is very close. 88 pages. And like I said, Bastards is at the printer right now. And James is lucky that I love him so much, because all of the U.S. fulfillment is going to be done by moi. So it's being printed in Canada. It's going to ship to me, or the U.S. orders everything to be able to fulfill those, and I'll ship those out myself. So, and same with Shove. So exciting times. And then we've got Kill Them Dead on the horizon. Kill Them Dead. So Kill Them Dead is something that James and I are writing together. And then we've assembled a pretty kick-ass art team. I'm not doing any art on it. I might do like thumbnail storyboard type stuff to help things along, but I'm not doing any of the finished art. But the art team is the amazing Dimitri, who, and I'll link their social medias down in the description, but Dimitri is phenomenal. And he is penciling this book, and when we start leaking some images from this, you guys will know. He's ridiculously good. He's legit. And I'll link his Instagram and Twitter and stuff down below, and you can check it out, but you'll see. But this story, Kill Them Dead, it's about the underworld. It's about the creation of death in a mythological sense, but it's a rock and roll type story, like the way we're writing it. So James and I, so what a weird team up. James and I are writing, which is already like craziness, especially because we are similar in a lot of ways. We're very different in a lot of ways. So we definitely balance each other out, but also inspire insanity. Dimitri is doing the pencils, but then just had a meeting today with a very dear friend, and I'm very excited because he's done work for both James and I. As you can see, this is the fruit of some of his work. This is a painting that he did. The inimitable, the amazing, he's affectionately known on social media as Skunk Artworks. He is going to be doing final inks, finishes, and coloring on this book. So this art team is ridiculous. The team up of writing is ridiculous. And then we've got some even more ridiculous ideas as far as how we're presenting. Not the creation, not the writing, not the art, just the presentation of the book. Some craziness. So we're very excited about Kill Them Dead. It's also a chance for me to like see it from the writer perspective, where I'm like creating something but I'm not drawing it. Like, that's a new thing for me. So I'm excited for that. And I'm excited for it because the art team is so not only good but intriguing. I'm really intrigued to see what these guys do with it. So that's all the exciting news. I mean, there's more other stuff that we got in the works, but that's kind of the, obviously we start on Unconditional Shove Volume 2 very soon, and James is already setting to work on Magnificent Bastards number 2. Like, this, jump-started his excitement for his own IP, but it's kind of like, he's waiting a long time for art, and so now he's like, it's finished, let's do number 2, so he's very excited. So Magnificent Bastards number 2, Unconditional Shove number 2, and Kill Them Dead. There are some other things in the work for this year, but those are the 3 for sure that we're talking about, at least. Yeah, that's the exciting stuff for Broken Compass Comics. Other than that, It is Sunday once again. Enjoyed my weekend. It was a great weekend. I got a lot of drawing done, which is always good. I also got out and had my weekend meal out, which was relatively uneventful. I thought it'd be a little more social. I thought they would have good food, and it wasn't bad, but it was more of a bar setting. And I thought they would have like Tex-Mex kind of thing, so I ordered tacos. And they're like street tacos, flat corn tortilla. But I forget how small they are. There's 3 of them. But they're like, they're 2-inch diameter. It's like 2 bites and you're done. And I got carne asada steak. But even still, 3 of those, I was like, and I only eat 1 time a day. And I was like, I just gobbled those up, and I was like, man, I'm still hungry. Should I order more? And I talked myself out of ordering more. I just said, just wait till you get home, eat your own food. Because again, even those 3, it was kind of not real expensive, but for what it was. And anyway, it was fine. Also, the local theater, the one I talk about quite often on here, is on Tuesday I went and saw The Birds, and then last night I went and saw Tremors. Now, Tremors is classic. I absolutely love that movie. It's 80s full throttle kind of entertaining horror, as I call it, or funny horror. It's not even horror, really. It's just it's thriller with a monster, basically. That one was great. Always loved Tremors. But The Birds, I hadn't seen that since I was a kid. Because I remember it like playing in the background while the adults were like watching, and I was like playing, so I didn't really pay attention. And even if I did, I was a kid, so I was like... But I remember scenes from it. I remember it kind of being on the TV. My parents and aunts and uncles or whoever. So I was like... This is like a whole new movie experience. Because it's showing on the big screen. It's a classic. Let's go watch it, And again, as far as like Hitchcock stuff, I saw Vertigo not too long ago, and I really liked that one. Same with Psycho. That one was really good, but I hadn't watched The Birds. And I think it was because the premise always threw me off. I'm like, it's fucking birds, right? Like, but I went, it's Hitchcock, it's a classic, it's got to be good. So I went and watched it, and it was very good. It's one of those days of like, how are birds scary? Well, they can be, right? Especially like after owning chickens and seeing how just brutal they are. Like, my daughter was traumatized forever. Probably still traumatized. We had chickens. We had these chickens, and there was this piece of plywood just out, just like random shit out in the chicken area. But it was just a piece of plywood, and it just sat there for a long time. Didn't really think about it. But I remember one time I was out there, my daughter was like, I don't know, 4, 5 maybe. So really young. Toddler to kindergarten age. And I went, I should pick up this piece of plywood that had been sitting there forever. I pick it up, and there was a little divot in the ground with a mouse and a bunch of baby mice. Just little baby pink baby mice. I lift that thing up, the mom mouse just bing, ran away. And there was all these baby mice, and those chickens ran over there like it was Thanksgiving dinner. And just gobbled those baby mice up. And my daughter was, I remember she was so shaken by that. She wasn't shaken that the chickens gobbled up the baby mice. But I remember even myself, I was like, holy shit, I didn't think they would be just so excited to see it, to gobble up these baby mice. The chickens went to town. It was like a little frenzy. Like barracudas, or not barracudas, but piranhas for a second. Anyway, my daughter was just telling me as I was tucking her in, she was like, the mom just ran away. you know, that's a good point. Like, you know, from a kid perspective, she's like, their mom just ran away and left the baby, you know, and she was young, you know, so kind of comfort her between the differences of humans and mice, you know. I'm like, honey, mice, they make new mice all the time. You know, humans, we make a few and we take very good care of them. Other animals just make a lot, and they don't care as much because they just make a lot. And I think it got through to her. I mean, over time it understood, but like, it really did bother her. And I totally understood. I'm like, yeah, from your perspective, that is scary. It's a scary premise. Like, and again, you grow up with like Disney, and these animals are anthropomorphic. They're like, you know, they're practically people, but they're not people. You know, like if you see a mice, like The Secret of Nim or something, that's not how mice are in reality. You know, it's a fucking movie. Mice in reality are totally different. You know, you see chickens in a movie. You know, it's not how they are in reality. Chickens are brutal. They just like gobble up baby mice. You know, they do that to anything. It's kind of like cats. I had cats, and they always crack me up. Cats are funny creatures. I still prefer dogs, but I like cats in a lot of ways. But what cracks me up about cats is their mindset is, if it's smaller than me and it moves, I should kill it. Which cracks me up. Like, that cracks me up. Like, if I thought that, I wouldn't have cats. I would kill them all. But they see something move, it's smaller than them, they're like, I should kill this. And they do. If it's smaller than them and it moves, they'll kill it. So anyway, back to the birds. I love that. Really did enjoy that movie, and one of the reasons I really enjoyed it was because of the questions that went unanswered. Like, there was a lot of them. But it didn't ruin the story. It didn't ruin the pace. It didn't ruin the entertainment value. And I think that's where a lot of modern movies miss, is that they feel that they have to explain everything. And part of it is because we have this thing called critics who will be like, well, you didn't, what is this all about? Why? And nobody does that to the fucking birds. Nobody does that to Alfred Hitchcock. But the reality is, it's never explained why the hell, I mean, not even touched upon why the hell these birds are fucking attacking everybody. You know, there's like a few moments of speculation, but they're really mostly like the reactions of the people starts out as, oh, that was weird. Oh, this is becoming a thing, to this is a literal fight for survival. But never, you know, I mean, they talk about it like, why are they doing this? Why is this happening? And no one knows. That's part of why it works. Like, if there was an explainable reason, it's less horrific. You lose all the horror when you're like, well, it's a solar flare and it fucked with the birds' minds, or the poles reversed, the magnetic poles, and then they didn't know which way south was, or something. You know, it fucks with their heads. Or, you know, if there was some like bird psychologist who came in, he's like, they're tired of being pushed around. You know? Like, if there was some stupid answer, it doesn't work. Like, it would still work, but it would be like way less impactful. The reason it works is because we exist with birds all the time, and we have this coexisting relationship that they're not going to just dive bomb us at any given moment, or like group up together and like peck our eyes out. Because if they do that, all of a sudden they're horror. But at the moment, we like watching them, and, you know, they may be annoying, they may shit on our cars, but that's about it. And that's why I loved the movie, is because they never told you why. And there's no real resolution. Like, they get out of the immediate situation, and then you see their car driving away. But that's not the end of the fucking story. But that's the end of the story as far as we're concerned. And it leaves it open-ended. that open-endedness and the lack of every question being answered is the charm, and I think some people could learn from that. Even myself, I think about that too. Like, yeah, you don't have to, just because some critic is going to be like, why would this even happen? It's like, why? Why is the reason why it fucking works is because you don't know why. Again, if you could explain it away, it's less horrific. Anyway, I enjoyed it. And all day today, I watched probably 10 Twilight Zone episodes today. And I think it was about midweek last week that I got Paramount, the streaming service on Amazon. And I did it just to get Twilight Zone. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to get this. It's a 7-day free trial. And I'm like, even if I go past that and I have to pay for 1 month worth of, it's fine. But I'm like, I want to binge Twilight Zone right now. I just had a hankering. And so I got it, and I've been watching nothing but Twilight Zone since. Now, season 1 of Twilight Zone has 30 plus episodes. 30 plus episodes in one season. And I've seen them all, but I wanted to rewatch, and I was like, nope, you're going to watch all of them, even the ones you know you would normally skip. And so I rewatched all of them. The show is amazing. I love Twilight Zone. I love Rod Serling and what he presented with that show. I love the writing. I love the thought process. Now, Twilight Zone has a more Aesop's morality type of storytelling. And it's really built into the narrative of like, here's character traits you want to emulate, here's character traits you want to stay away from, and we're going to add that into the story so that you see the good guys get their reward and the bad guys get their comeuppance. But real quick, I'm just touch, and this will be loaded with spoilers, I'm sure, but touch on some of my favorites from season 1. And it's not my favorites from all of I almost said Star Wars, all of Twilight Zone, because my favorite episode of all time was not in season 1, but season 1, the trailer was pretty good. It's called Where Is Everybody? That one, it's a guy alone in a town. He doesn't know why he's there, and he's just walking through the town, and you're just dragged along with him. You don't know why till the very end. He doesn't know why till the very end. And that was a pretty good, strong start to all of Twilight Zone. It gave you an idea of what to expect. The only complaint I have about that one is his external monologue. There was no internal monologue. So if you were alone, like I imagine me walking around a town not knowing what's going on, every once in a while I might actually yell out audible things, but most of what was going on I would think internally. This guy, the main character, he's talking. There's no internal monologue. It's all him talking out loud. And he's like, oh man, what's going on here? It's like nobody would say that audibly. And maybe not nobody, but that was my only if I'm picking it apart. Then there was kind of some, I wouldn't say stinkers, they just weren't that great. Episode 5 was called Walking Distance. Again, there's spoilers in this shit, but Walking Distance I really enjoyed. This one is one of those more play on the heartstrings, not so much like a horror story or not so much any kind of thriller or intensity, It's just like some weirdness happens, and it puts perspective on life through the whole weirdness. So it's a guy who's kind of in his late 30s, somewhat midlife crisis. He's a very, he's caught up with work, but he's kind of just done with it, and he ends up in his hometown, and he just goes through this whole nostalgic feel, but he doesn't realize he's transported to when he was like 10 or 11, and he's in this town, and it's like the same town he grew up in, and back when he grew up, and everything was as he remembered it, as you romanticize that time in your life. And he was like, this is great and it's amazing, but he finds his old house, and he visits his parents, and they're like, who the hell are you crazy fuck, because they're in the time when he was 10 or 11, so they have no idea who he is. Get off our property, but anyway, his dad figures it out, and understands, for whatever reason, my son is an adult and he's come back in time. And his dad gives him this impassioned speech, as only a dad would, and it was really, really touching. But he's basically like, don't stay here, this is his time, which is you when you were a kid, and don't take that from him. This is not for you. Your time is in the future. And he's like, you're too busy looking into the past, you should look in the future. But he gives a great speech. It's great episode for that. It's not like scary, it's not hard hitting in any kind of like intense way. It's hard hitting in a relatable way, in a perspective kind of way. And then Rod Serling's closing monologues, which are always great, was really good on that one. Episode 6, Escape Clause. That one was alright. The Lonely, episode 7, I really like that one. And I just like Jack Warden, because he was in like Problem Child and Dirty Work and stuff. But a young Jack Warden, he's like imprisoned on this prison planet, isolated from the rest of the world. So it's just like him on not a prison planet, but it's an asteroid. But he's by himself. And then the officers or whatever, they like bring him supplies and shit, and they're like worried about his loneliness. So they bring him this female companion who's a robot, cyborg, or as they call it in the episode, and they say it all the time, robot. Anyway, at first he's like, what are you? And, she looks human and everything, but he's like, you're mocking me, get away. And he's like rude to her, but then she shows like emotion, and then he falls in love with her. But anyway, like they come back and they're like, good news, you're pardoned. We got to get you on the ship and get you back to Earth. And they're like, we only have so much time and we only have so much room. And he's like, oh, I'll get the girl and we'll go. And they're like, well, there's no room for her. She's just a robot, or a robot. And he's like, no, she's got to come with. She's like, she's a robot. I just remember he like grabs his shoulder. She's not a robot. She's not a robot. And I don't know why. That's like a time period thing. They all said robot. Robot. So my brother and I had like a little toy robot. And it was like this little walking robot thing. Back in the 80s, it was like cool as shit kind of toy. And he would talk. He had a little automated thing, and he would go, I don't know what he said, like the atomic powered, or something like that. I'm the atomic powered robot. And my brother, at like 10 years old or whatever we were, we would just laugh, or like, he says, robot. Robot. And then I watched this episode called The Lonely on Twilight Zone. They say robot like 100 fucking times. But that one was really good. And then the officer ends up like shooting her, and it like blasts her face off, and then you see all the cybernetic intricacies behind her face, and then he kind of goes, oh yeah, that's right, she was a robot. She was a robot. Episode 8 was Time Enough to Last, which is one of the most famous episodes. And I think it's a little overrated. I do like it. And I love Burgess Meredith. Who does a great job. I always remember him as Mickey from Rocky. But Time Enough to Last, that's the one where he's got the Coke bottle glasses and he's always reading and everybody's giving him shit. His wife was horrible. I'm like, good for you that she was like exploded in an atomic blast. But so he worked at a bank and he hides himself in the safe in the bank vault to like stay away from his boss so he can read because he loves reading and everyone gives him shit for reading. And then a nuclear blast or whatever happens, and then he comes out of the vault and everyone's dead. And he's like, oh, it takes him a little while, but eventually he's like, I can just read. I can read forever. And of course his Coke bottle glasses break, and there he is by himself. That was more one of those cruel twist of fate endings, which those are interesting, but they kind of deviated from the Aesop's kind of morality style when they did that. But it's one of the most famous Twilight Zone episodes, and a lot of people really love it. I do love it, but I think it's a little overrated. But that's one. His glasses break. He's trying to read, and he's like, but there was time now. There was time. That's what it's called, Time Enough to Last. So he, that cruel fate, he can't read because of his glasses. Episode 9, Perchance to Dream, was one of the best. That one was very surreal, psychedelic kind of thing. He keeps having these nightmares about a carnival and this lady, and he's worried that if he falls asleep, he's actually going to die. And he's at the psychiatrist's office. He's like, if I fall asleep, I die. And then he does end up falling asleep. And what do you know? He dies. So there's a pretty good stretch here where they had some good ones. Judgment Night, one of many where they started bringing in the World War II comeuppance, which is basically like people who did hideous things during war that were like Nazis, and having that come back to them. So the guy was like, he operated a submarine and he destroyed this ship and he was very proud about it, but then his hell is that he lives on that ship with all those people that died. He lives with them every day, and every day he gets destroyed by himself, and it's pretty good. My favorite one of the Nazi comeuppance is Death's Head Revisited, which very, very well could be my favorite Twilight Zone episode ever. There's just, that one was intense. And that one you could feel not only, you could feel why there needed to be that comeuppance a little more than this one. Because the guy was a concentration camp, or he ran the concentration camp, and he goes to relive old glory, and he goes to the concentration camp again, and then he's visited by ghosts and it torments him. That one was amazing. When the Sky Was Open was one of my favorites. That's 3 astronauts. They take off, but they're not shot down or whatever. They have crash land, but they had been out to space, and then when they come back, like time is erasing each one of the 3 guys. So it starts out at 3, and then there's 2, and then there's 1, and they just kind of like fade away and out of people's memory, and almost like something supernatural or beyond this world was erasing them, and that was pretty good. I did like that one. What you need is alright. 4 of us are dying. Yeah, it's alright. Third from the Sun. Third from the Sun was the first one where they played on the trope of the entire episode. You think everybody's human, and whatever situation you're like, oh, that would be crazy for humans to go through, and then you realize that they're actually alien. It's pretty well done. My favorite one where they did that was the little spacemen in the monster house, and it's like the lady and you think they're aliens, but they're actually NASA astronauts. That one, if you've seen it, you know, but if not, I'm not going to explain it too much. But I shot an arrow into the air. That one was pretty good. The twist on that one was very much Planet of the Apes, like, you blew it up, you bastards, damn you all to hell. But the episode was pretty good. It's a little ridiculous. Like, sometimes you play a little too much on archetypes, and too much, especially when you got a bad guy and you're like, okay, I could see somebody being really cruel and bad in a situation, but sometimes it's a little over the top. So, but it was still a good episode. The Hitchhiker, that one's classic. That one was very unnerving because of the subtlety of the hitchhiker. He's very slight and just subtle. And the twist on that one, I don't know, I'm not going to give that one away, but the twist was really good when she finally meets the hitchhiker. And that one, certain ones had a little more eeriness to them, and that one was definitely on the eerie side, where you're like, I can't make out why this is happening when you first watch it, and when you get the twist, you're like, ooh, that's even more unsettling, you know. So that was a good one. The Fever, and The Last Flight was pretty good. Purple Testament was good. Elegy was pretty good. Mirror Image was another really creepy one where they touched on doppelgangers. And the reason I liked that one was because the doppelgangers, whenever they were in scene, it was like, oh, somebody's doing something that looks exactly like you. But whenever they showed and that you knew it was the doppelganger, they looked so, they had like a wry smile. They were mischievous. It was very unsettling because they were just so, just because they seemed so mischievous. And that always made it unsettling. Like there's the last scene where the guy's like running down his doppelganger, and his doppelganger's looking over his shoulder, just kind of like chuckling and laughing at him. The Monsters Are Due on Maple Street, that was a good one. That was one of the ones that touched on like mob, like how, again, morality kind of thing, like when people get up. So that one was where like everything starts messing up around the town, and they're like, oh, we don't know what's happening, the power's going out and all this stuff. And then they all believe this stupid kid, which cracks me up because he's like, I read in a comic book that the aliens did this, and everybody's like, wait, Timmy, what are you saying? You know, and then he's like, but the aliens would come down and they looked just like us, and no one knew who they were. So the whole neighborhood freaks out, and they start accusing each other. One of a few Twilight Zones where they really pointed out that the dangers of mob mentality and frenzied, getting carried away with emotion in a heightened situation, because the whole town starts accusing each other like, you're an alien and all this shit, and then you find out that it's really aliens just like controlling some switches and like turning lights off and starting cars, and they're like, yep, you just make the weird shit happen, and they all like freak out and kill each other. You know, that's what we do. That's all you got to do. Which was a great premise, and I think that's actually pretty true, which unfortunately. A World of Difference was pretty good. It was kind of like a Truman Show kind of thing, where he's like, he thinks he's living in this world, but it's actually like a TV show. It was actually pretty well done. Long Live Walter Jameson. I did like that one. That was where the guy just can't die. He was kind of like cursed to live forever. But they did some really cool effects, aging effects, using lighting and stuff. People are like all over. That one was pretty lame. Execution was alright. Big Tall Wish. That one's about a boxer who a little boy believes in him, even though he's kind of like an aging, not good boxer. And then this little kid believes, but it's kind of got this like Jiminy Cricket When You Wish Upon a Star kind of feel. Not bad. A nice place to visit. That one was a frustrating episode because it sucked, but the ending twist was worth it. And I'm not going to give it away because I'm just going to keep going. Nightmare as a Child. I did like that one a lot. That's where this woman like keeps seeing this little girl, and this little girl knows so much about her, and she's like, what's going on? And then you find out that she has all these repressed memories from when her mom was murdered, and basically that little girl is like her when she was a little girl, trying to clue her in that she needs to remember this shit because the killer's coming back for her. And that one was really, really good. And the twist and everything. And the acting was really good. A lot of times the acting is, sometimes they're chewing the scenery and sometimes it's really well done. Stop at Willoughby. That's another one that kind of like plays on the nostalgia of old time life and stuff. Not bad. The Chaser, like a love potion thing where you realize if you had a woman who just loved you no matter what you did, and it's like over the top, it's not really all it's cracked up to be. That one, it's alright. Passage for Trumpet, that one was really good, about a washed up trumpet player who was like an alcoholic, but gets a second lease on life after he tries to kill himself. Pretty good. Mr. Beavis, I did like that one. I like that it's called Beavis. I mean, even in the description here, as I'm looking at, an eccentric loser. But that was the thing, like, he was lost his job and all this stuff, but he was so weird and he just kind of quirky and did what he liked. And I like that they kind of showed, like, because sometimes there's a time to play ball. There's a time where you gotta like do what you gotta do. But there's also this sense of like, don't lose who you are. That's the thing. He had like a guardian angel. He's like, I'll restore everything. Everything will be fine. But you just got to make some changes. And he like really tries to clean him up and change him. And he's like, but that's not me. I'm a weirdo. And so I did kind of like that. That the After Hours was one of the creepiest ones I ever saw. Again, plenty of spoilers, but that's where this girl's in this like mall with many floors. And there's a lot of weirdness, and you really don't know what's going on until the end. I don't want to give any more of that one away, just in case you do watch it. Because if I say one word, all of a sudden you're like, you gave the whole thing away. The Mighty Casey, that one was lame as fuck. That was like a baseball one, but it was really pretty lame. And then A World Is Own. That was the final episode, episode 36. So I went through a bunch of these. Touched on some of my favorites. A World Is Own was episode 36, final episode of season 1. And it was an interesting installment. It was very campy. Played for laughs a lot. But the interesting thing is that they broke the fourth wall on it in a very obvious way. And I thought that was interesting because you did not see that very much at the time. Very much like Looney Tunes, where Daffy Duck is getting drawn into all these scenarios, and then you find out that it's Bugs Bunny who is writing it the whole time. Like, that was a great fourth wall break, and probably the one I remember most growing up. And I don't particularly like them. I don't hate them, but a lot of people talk about it nowadays. But those are some of the earliest. I remember that Looney Tunes one, and then this episode where Rod Serling is really part of the story at the very end. And so his narration is really wrapped up into the story, not just, here's what happened in the story, and here's your Oh, it's Jerry Springer's final thought. But that said, it wasn't like a great episode. It was actually kind of dumb. It was about a writer who could write his own reality, but he doesn't realize it till the end. And he's like, oh, look, I could do whatever the hell I want, you know. I can make the perfect woman. So anyway, that was season 1. I watched all of those. And now I just talked about all those. And I'm exhausted from talking. I can't believe I'm at 50 minutes. Because I talked about Bastards, I talked about Shove, I talked about Kill Them Dead, I talked about The Birds, I talked about every episode of Twilight Zone from the first season. And with that, I'm going to wrap it up because I really did go way longer than I ever expected. So, as always, I hope you enjoyed this. If you made it this far, like, you really are like my best friend and stuff. But I really appreciate it. It's just kind of like, why would anyone listen to my ramblings that much? But if you did, just know I appreciate it. Because these are more for me. Like, I put up content just so I have a YouTube presence, I guess. I enjoy hearing feedback. I enjoy that people can watch this and kind of like, hey, this is what's going on with Odin. I really enjoy the driving and singing videos where people say, I really like these. I really like hearing your different takes on different songs. So I do all this stuff, but really I do it for myself. Like, I like throwing it out there to everybody, driving and singing what the hell's going on throughout my week. But if anybody gets anything out of it, or anybody gleans any information, or if you like hearing the updates on what's going on comic book wise, you know, I appreciate it. You know, just some guy and I'm just putting up content. You know, I'm just trying to make stuff. But I get to rambling, and this is the longest, probably the longest video I've ever made, as far as just me sitting here talking. So that says something. If you made it this far, that says something. But anyway, I am going to wrap it up. Thank you guys if you made it this far. And until next time, this is Odin. Take care, and I hope you're doing pure awesome, as always. Hope you're doing pure awesome. And until next time, we'll see you. Maybe. There we go.